So it seems we have a case of deja vu on our hands, as it looks like another update is coming to the near future for Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and DMZ. Today we're running down what you need to know about update 1.14, when to expect it, and what will likely be included in this update. So as we go along, drop your thoughts below. What are you hoping to see in this update? Do you think we'll see it ahead of Season 2's launch here, or do you think it simply is the Season 2 update? But as well, be sure to check out my friends over at G Fuel for 20 to 30% off your entire order, link below. But for now, let's jump into it. So why I say this is deja vu is because we kind of had a very similar situation here as to 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we saw an update that was logged, one that's now live, update 1.13 for Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and DMZ. This was before we knew of that delay to Season 2, just before it in fact, but even by the standards of the previous launch of Season 2 on February 1st, it was still odd to see something added to the console databases as early as it was. January 15th is when we saw update 1.13 logged in PlayStation's databases, and we had this whole conversation about how it's odd that we see it this early on, because generally speaking, updates are logged a few days before they're released to the public, i.e. Season 2's update wouldn't have been logged until right about now if the update was going out on the 1st of February, but theoretically speaking, which we'll touch on in just a second, now with the date of the 15th for Season 2 launch, we shouldn't be seeing that seasonal update logged in the databases for another week, more likely 2. But our initial assumption was right. On the 15th, that update was logged, and on the 20th, we saw it go live to all players, making much more sense now with the knowledge of the delay in place. Now, it turns out we have just about the exact same situation going on right now. Very early yesterday morning, just before 6 a.m. on the East Coast, PlayStation Game Size, the same Twitter account we reported on with the update 1.13, that account keeps track of newly logged items in the PlayStation databases. They tweeted, "Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 update 1.14 has been added to the database." So with us currently being on game version 1.13, that is indeed a new update, so what's the deal? Well, firstly, that new update nature is step one. This is new. We're not living Groundhog Day, or not fully just yet, but one thing that was odd about this listing so far is that there's no sizing associated with the tweet. That could be an omission from PlayStation Game Size. It could literally not be listed in the database just yet. We just simply don't know that part. Now, one thing that does seem to lean one way or the other is that their account did say they believe it to be a smaller update, which could check out. So here's when I think we'll be seeing this, talking timing firstly. Again, it's a bit too early for this to be logged in my mind as the Season 2 update. I could be wrong, but historically speaking at least, these seasonal updates are usually logged a few days before their introduction, as we mentioned, and the recent 1.13 was no exception to that. Logged and then 5 days later, live to the public. But one additional thing to consider is that Activision adheres to that dubbed Rule of Two. And yes, same old corny joke, not the Rule of Two that the Sith used to try and rule the galaxy, but rather a 2-week window of time to allow for a cooldown of whatever's launched, and then to go into promotion of whatever's next. So if they're sticking to that ruling historically, 2 weeks from the Season 2 update is this upcoming Wednesday. Now, I'm not saying that's when the update will launch, but rather that's the window you're looking at where most of the time anything after that will be kind of off limits. Now, not only in terms of talking promotion for Season 2, but we also have to consider the density on when we'd see multiple updates going out in a small period of time. While you or I may have good internet and download speeds where a title update isn't something that we really have to worry about, plenty of players in the world do not have that luxury. So smashing together multiple updates in a small window of time is something that can quite literally backlog some players, so it's usually not an option they consider. Playing into that, again, Rule of Two. So considering those 2 points and how we just saw this happen recently, I would not be surprised if we get another update here this upcoming week. Tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday perhaps. So to me, that's probably the biggest takeaway. Keep an eye out because it's very likely that we have another update here coming very, very soon. Now, the other question, what's the update going to bring along? What's it hold? Without specifics and sizing, it's really hard to come by a definitive answer or really take an educated stab at what we think absolutely could be the case. But of course, we still can make some educated guesses here. With PlayStation Game Size referring to this being a smaller update than normal still, doesn't seem quite by the tone that it was as small as the initial listing of 1.13, which did seem to be a placeholder, by the way. It was half a gig rather than a few megabytes as listed initially, but by the tone shifting here to be smaller, my first guess and first and foremost would be stability fixes. We know a ton of stuff is coming with Season 2 and fundamental shifts with the game's core gameplay across all modes, but those will not be added earlier than the Season 2 launch. That's something that they are holding until that. We're not going to see it squeak in beforehand, but instead we still can look forward to things like PC performance updates and stability, console stability, issues on the Trello board that still haven't been tackled. All of those things are requiring a title update for their fixes to be live, but since they're not adding or subtracting physical or interactable or playable content, the sizing itself wouldn't be very large by comparison. Title updates for seasons are usually a couple of gigs at minimum, usually around that 10 to maybe 20 gig range, so we're not going to see something that large. Now, of course, there are still plenty of things to look at in terms of known issues, known bugs. The Trello board still, again, has a host of fixes that still are on the way. Bird's Eye still being bugged and allowing all pinged items in BR to show no matter whose UAV and such are called. Exploits for DMZ stashes where players' weapons are just straight up like eaten up. Bugs allowing players to loot the same supply crate at the same time as another player. Spotter scopes making pinged enemy live marks permanent. The ability to stay past a game's end with self-revive. Ground war matchmaking being entirely bugged. Changing attachments mid-kill cam still entirely killing frame rate. Camos still have a plenty number of issues where, say, like platinum camo, if you get 51 platinum camos, it won't allow you to access anymore because the game realizes, oh, you've unlocked polyatomic at 51, that's the threshold. You don't need any of those other ones. So sometimes it doesn't allow you to have extracurricular camos on weapons beyond those base 51 or whatever 51 you complete. So, as you can see, there are still a lot of things that could absolutely be worked on. My personal thing still is stability. I know that I'm biased. I know that I'm beating a dead horse. We've talked about it on the channel plenty of times. I'm still running into issues with my new system that realistically should not be a problem. A 7950X CPU and a 4090 GPU should not be having these kind of issues, but having run plenty of tests on other games, stress tests for specific hardware and components, it's still only COD that's giving me any issues here. I will say that I had a message relayed to me from someone from one of the tech teams, not entirely sure if it was Beanox, Activision Central Tech, Infinity Ward, or whoever, but they did suggest the newest game-ready driver after update 1.13, ironically the easiest and simplest sounding fix that I didn't even attempt after update 1.13 because it was a driver that was crashing an absurd amount for me pre 1.13, but it sounds like they worked specifically with that version on this update. So I will say that it did work well for a little while. A lot of my baseline testing was just let the game run type of deal where I just straight up let my game idle on my third monitor on DMZ menus. For whatever reason, it was DMZ and BR menus and the actual game itself that would crash my game. MP side really didn't seem to give me too many noticeable issues, but I'd let it idle there. First test, I got away with 8.5 hours before crash. Second test was 6.5 hours. Third test was 20 minutes. Fourth test was 42 minutes. The fifth test was 3 hours. Sixth test, 1 hour and 23 minutes. The seventh test, 4.5 hours. And then I just shut it off at that point and went to bed for that specific time. So like, it worked, it didn't, it worked, and then it didn't some more. So in my anecdotal case, we're getting there, but we're not quite there yet. So if it's a stability update, count me in. And that's what I'd expect and absolutely take if I can play the game here again before the update on February 15th. So that's what I'm expecting. Just another smaller update here for stability first. Maybe some bug fixes, maybe some UI adjustments to follow, but update 1.14 should be coming here shortly. Then again, maybe I am entirely wrong. It is possible that this could be the Season 2 title update being logged well ahead of its launch here, but with it still being over 2 weeks away, that's not what I'm putting my chips on if I'm a betting man. But weirder things have happened, so that's what we're gonna call it. Let me know your thoughts down below. What are you guys thinking here? Do you think this will be the Season 2 update? Do you think it will be some stability fixes and some smaller changes they'll see ahead of Season 2? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts below. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and anything COD related. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name's been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.